بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم أما بعد. In this lesson we're going to begin الدرس الثالث عشر, the 13th lesson. Before we read the passage, we're going to explain the main concepts taught in this lesson بإذن الله الكريم. So the author rahimahullah ta'ala, he's going to teach us a few new concepts in this lesson, so we need to pay attention. So far we know how to command the second person. When we're speaking to a person, we want him to do something, we know how to command, and that is by constructing the fi'l amr. So for example, we have the verb taktubu. So taktubu, from taktubu we construct the fi'l amr, which we already know how to do as explained in previous lessons. And the fi'l amr is only for the second person. Remember, there's third person, second person, or first person. So you can only command someone who you're addressing. You don't command yourself, nor do you command someone who's absent, someone who you're not talking to. Only those who you're addressing. So if you're addressing one male, from this verb we say uktub, you write. Two of them, uktuba. More than them, a group of males, uktubu. One female, uktubi, uktuba, uktubna. So we have 6 forms in total. You're commanding either one male, 2 males or more, one female, 2 females or more. And we've learnt how to prohibit. You're forbidding them from doing something. We already know that la is an-nahiya. This la an-nahiya comes to prohibit someone from doing something. So there's no construction. We just take the fi'l mudari', add la to it, and this la is jazima. It has an effect on the fi'l mudari', it makes it majzoom. So la taktub. You see the ending is exactly the same as this, but this one is mabni. The fi'l amr is mabni on sukoon, mabni on hadf al-noon in these cases, mabni on sukoon in this case. This is mabni, but this is mu'rab. This one's mu'rab. And we say majzoom wa alamatu jazmi sukoon, majzoom wa alamatu jazmi hadf al-noon, hadf al-noon, hadf al-noon, hadf al-noon, majzoom wa alamatu jazmihi as-sukoon. That sukoon is alamat jazm. So the difference between this one's mabni. The fi'l amr is mabni, it's fixed. It's going to be fixed on different things. And the fi'l mudari is majzoom, and is majzoom on the different things. This has already been explained. So we have learnt how to command second person, and we've learnt how to forbid and prohibit second person. In lesson 13, the lesson that we're in right now, we're going to learn how to command the third person. How do you command the third person? That's what we're going to be learning. To command the third person, you don't use fi'l amr. Fi'l amr is specific for second person. As for third person, we're going to learn that you can command the third person using this lam. This lam is a harf, and it's called lam al-amr. This lam al-amr is lam of commanding. Lam of commanding can attach on the third person fi'l mudari', and it makes it a command form. It gives the meaning of command form, the meaning of amr. And this lam is a harf which is jazima. It makes the fi'l mudari' that it attaches to majzoom. So we're gonna see it does the same thing as this. So here's la taktub. We can add it to the fi'l mudari' third person and say liyaktub. When we say liyaktub, the sukoon there is because of this lam. Lam has made it majzoom. So this is also from the jawazim. Liyaktub basically means let him write. Yani he must write. Yani you're commanding a third person. It will be liyaktuba. Let the two of them write. Liyaktubu. Let them all write. Litaktub, litaktuba, liyaktubna. So the same tasrif. Just to make it short, I haven't written it here, but it's the same process. Majzoom wa alamatu jazmi sukoon. With majzoom wa alamatu jazmi hadf al-noon. Hadf al-noon, hadf al-noon, hadf al-noon. Majzoom wa alamatu jazmihi as-sukoon. طيب, so lamul amr is how we command the third person. And lamul amr also enters upon the first person plural. We can say linaktub. Linaktub or linadhhab means let us go, let us write. So we say linaktub. And we don't command the first person singular, but we can command the first person plural. Linaktub, linaktub. So this lam is what we're learning here. This is new. It's called lamu al-amr. Lamul amri. Lamul amr, the lam for commanding, the lam for ordering. And this lam, what's special about it is that you can use it to command the third person, and likewise you can use it to command the first person plural. That's one thing. The second thing is that this lam is a jazima. It makes the fi'l mudari that it enters upon majzoom. Hope that's understood. One other thing that we need to mention about this lam is that it's mabni on kasr. The lam is a harf which is mabni on kasr. It takes a kasr. But this kasr is omitted when 3 huruf atf come before it. If we have thumma, if thumma comes before it, the lam is going to take a sukoon. That's one. The second one is if fa comes before it, and the fa is going to attach to the lam, and then we have the fi'l mudari after it, the lam likewise is going to take a sukoon. That's the second harf. The third harf is waw. If waw comes before it, then the lam is going to take a sukoon, and the fi'l mudari attaches after it, right? So it's mabni on kasr unless 3 huruf attach or come before it, sorry. These huruf are huruf atifah. They are conjunctions. If they come before it, then the lam takes a sukoon rather than taking a kasra. So it will be thumma yaktub, fal yaktub, wal yaktub. طيب. Okay, so that's the first thing that we have to bear in mind. The first thing that we have to bear in mind is lamul amr. This is something new that we're learning. Likewise, prohibiting, we've already taken this la an-nahiya in book 2, lesson 15. But in lesson 15, we only prohibited second person. You can also use it to prohibit third person, and that's what we're going to be learning in this lesson. It's going to give us examples of prohibiting the third person. La yaktub, let him not write, he must not write. La yaktuba, la yaktubu, la taktub for the female. La taktuba, la yaktubna. It's important to note that so far we have learned the 3 types of la. There's 3 types of la that we should be aware of by now, inshallah. The first la is la an-nafiya. La an-nafiya is the la of negation. So for example, someone could say la adrusu fil jami'ah. La adrusu fil jami'ati. La adrusu fil jami'ati means I don't study in university. I don't study in university. So that's la an-nafiya. La an-nafiya just negates. It has no grammatical effect on the word that comes after it. So fi'l mudari remains with the dhamma. It hasn't changed it. Then we've taken this la of prohibition, and this one has an effect on the fi'l mudari. It makes it majzoom. This prohibits, this negates. And then we learned last lesson la an-nafiya lil jins. La an-nafiya lil jins. La an-nafiya lil jins. The la an-nafiya lil jins, the absolute negation. The absolute negation also has an effect on the words that come after it. And this is similar to inna and its sisters, as we mentioned. It enters upon a jumla ismiya. It enters upon a jumla ismiya. Like for example, we said last lesson, la mani'a indi. La mani'a indi. This la is la an-nafiya lil jins. So bear this in mind, inshallah. We have taken 3 types of la so far. La an-nahiya, which is a jazima. It makes the fi'l mudari' majzoom. La an-nafiya negates but has no effect. La an-nafiya lil jins, another negation, but this is an absolute negation, enters upon the jumla ismiya. Makes the ism mansoob and it makes the khabar marfu', just like inna and its sisters. طيب. Then we move on to the next point that the author wants to teach us, and this is an important point, and that is al-jazmu bit-talab. Al-jazm bit-talab. This is another way of making the fi'l mudari' majzoom. Al-jazm of the fi'l mudari' be using at-talab. At-talab. What is at-talab? At-talab is basically a request. It's a request of some sort. Yani you're requesting someone to do something or not to do something. Al-jazm bit-talab. And talab includes telling someone to do something, encourage them to do something, or telling them not to do something, or discourage them from doing something. There's different types, but it's a request. For this to have an effect, or for you to be able to make a fi'l mudari' majzoom using this, there's 2 conditions. Firstly, the first condition is we have to have some sort of talab that starts the sentence. We start with a talab. There's a talab here. Amr, fi'l amr, or there's a nahi, or encouragement or discouragement from doing something. Some sort of request is mentioned here. And then the fi'l mudari' comes here. And the fi'l mudari' that comes here, it has to be intended to be a recompense. It has to be intended to be a jaza. Jaza is a recompense for this talab. It's a recompense related to this talab. So a talab comes, that's the first condition. Condition number 1, you have to have a talab. Condition number 2 is that the fi'l mudari' that you're going to make majzu' has to be coming for the meaning of recompensing this. So 2 conditions. There's a request, which is talab. There has to be a talab somewhere in the sentence at the start, and then followed by a fi'l mudari'. Doesn't have to be straight away, but this has to be a recompense for the talab. For example, I would say isma. Isma, fi'l amr, listen. If you do listen, as a result of you listening, what's going to happen? Tafhamu. This is a fi'l mudari'. But this fi'l mudari', the 2 conditions have been applied. There's a talab which precedes it, and this fi'l mudari', I'm intending it for it to be a result, a recompense for this. A result that comes from this, stems from this. If you listen, what's going to happen? You're going to understand. So I make this majzoom. It becomes majzoom. Why did it become majzoom? Because majzoom bit talab. And the reason why the author has mentioned this is to complete all of the jawazim. So the fi'l mudari', al-fi'l al-mudari' has 3 states. The fi'l mudari' has 3 states. It's either marfu', and this is the asl. The fi'l mudari' has 3 states. It's marfu', and this is the asl. The origin is that the fi'l mudari', whenever you see it, it's marfu'. That's the asl. And then it becomes mansoob sometimes. When does it become mansoob? It becomes mansoob if there is a nasib, an agent of nasb that precedes it. If it's preceded by an agent of nasb, it becomes mansoob. And sometimes it becomes majzoom. We see that the fi'l is majzoom, and this is what we're going to be learning. So the majzoom, there are 2 types. There's 2 types of majzoom, or things which make the fi'l mudari' majzoom. There's agents or particles and so on which make one fi'l majzoom. It enters and it only affects one fi'l mudari' and makes it majzoom. And there's things which make 2 fi'l mudari'. One thing which affects 2 fi'l mudari', causing both to become majzoom. We're not going to be speaking about this. We're only speaking about this. And this one, we have learnt all of them, alhamdulillah. The jazima, which makes one fi'l majzoom, we've learnt all of them. As we have explained all of them now, we've added 2 more to the list and we have completed the list. So previously we learnt from the jawazim lam. We already know lam, and we already know lamma, and we already knew la. La an-nahiya, the la of prohibition. So lam, lamma, la, and today we've added lam al-amr. Lam al-amr is number 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 5th one al-jazm bit-talab. There's 5 jawazim which only affect one fi'l mudari'. We've learnt all of them, alhamdulillah. So lam, lamma, la an-nahiya, lamul amr, al-jazm bit-talab. 5 jawazim which make one fi'l mudari' majzoom, which enter and cause one fi'l mudari' to become majzoom. And remember, there's another section, particles or nouns, which cause 2 fi'l mudari' to become majzoom. We're going to learn that inshallah slowly. Hope this is understood. So fi'l mudari' has 3 states. Marfu', that's the asl, that's the default position. When there's no nasib or jazim preceding it, it's marfu'. If there is a nasib coming before it, from the nasib that we've learnt so far, an tadhhaba, lan adhhaba, we've learnt this already, and some others, they're going to come inshallah, we'll learn all of them. And then the fi'l mudari', if it's preceded by a jazim, it becomes majzoom. And we said majzoom 2 types, particles which enter and cause one fi'l mudari' to become majzoom. We've learnt all of them, and there's 5 in total. Either particles, 4 particles, or a intangible metaphorical jazim, which is at-talab, being a recompense for a request. And then there's jawazim which make 2 fi'l mudari' majzoom, this usually happens in a conditional sentence. It's going to be a conditional sentence. We'll learn this slowly, inshallah. But alhamdulillah, we've completed the benefit with regards to this one. So just bear this in mind. That's why the author, he mentioned lamul amr and al-jazm bit-talab, just to complete the list for us with those which make one fi'l mudari' majzoom. طيب. So if we've understood that, there's one final thing that we need to explain. So let's explain that one final thing. That one final thing that we're going to discover in this lesson is a type of calling. Calling in the Arabic language is different types. We've learned ya and nida, and then the word that comes after it is munada. But there's a type of nida which is known as an-nudba. An-nudba is lamenting. In short, it is to express pain or grief. It's used for two things: to express at-tawajju', express pain, or to express at-tafajju', express grief. Okay, that's what an-nudba is. An-nudba is a way of expressing pain, you're in pain, or expressing grief or sorrow over someone or something. This is what we're going to be learning, inshallah. And how do we express this? We express this by bringing this harf an-nudba. It's called harf an-nudba. It's a type of nida. Wa. It's similar to ya. But this wa is specific calling for an-nudba. And then after it, we bring that which we are complaining about. If it's your head that's in pain, your hand that's in pain, your feet that's in pain, you will mention it here. If it's the person that you're grieving over, the thing that you're grieving over, you bring it here. طيب. So this is going to be called al-mandub. Al-mandub, the thing that is you're expressing pain over or grief over, is known as al-mandub. It has a specific name, although it's munada generally, but it's called al-mandub. And then there's three ways of expressing the mandub. There's three ways of expressing the mandub. The first form of expressing the mandub is just like the munada. Exactly like the munada, same form as the munada. So we'd say, for example, Ya Umaru. And if he was calling the head, for example, Ya Ra'su. So it will be exactly the same. You'd say, Wa Umaru. Wa Umaru. This is grieving over Umar. He got into a car accident and you're grieving over him. Wa Umar. Wa Umaru. That means, oh Umar, I feel sorry for you. That's grieving over something. If it's grieving over your head, being in pain, headache, wa ra'su. Wa ra'su wa umaru. So we're saying the first form in which you can introduce the mandub is to just mention it like the munada. Mabni ala dham, mabni ala dham. Okay, that's the first form. The second form is after the mandub, you mention the mandub and then you introduce alif. The alif that's added here is for tawqid, emphasis, emphasizing the expression of pain. But this alif, before it's introduced, obviously alif has to have a fatha before it. So whatever you bring here ends with a fatha and then you introduce the alif. So for example, if it was to apply it to this, we would say Wa Umara. Wa Umara is of a greater expression of pain and grief than if it was just to say Wa Umaru. And if it was here, we'd say Wa Ra'sa. Wa Ra'sa. And then the third way is to do exactly the same thing that we did here, but adding a ha'us sakt. Ha'us sakt is just a ha that is a silent ha that you stop on. So we'd say Wa Umara. Wa Ra'sa. And it's sukun, mabni sukun. This is a harf. Ha'us sakt is a harf. The alif is alif for at-tawqid, which is also a harf. طيب, so you can say Wa Umaru, I'm grieving over Umar. Wa Umara, same thing but more emphasized. Wa Umara, and stop on a sukun. Three ways. And this is the one that's most used. This is the one that's the format that's most used. Wa Umara, alif and the ha sakt. And this is what's going to come in the lesson. This is what's going to be taught to us in the lesson. Wa yadah, wa ra'sah, wa rijlah, wa aynah, wa anfah. طيب. So this is an-nudba. And this is what we're going to be seeing, inshallah, the examples of when we read the passage. Barakallah fikum. Subhanakallah wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik.